Hello there, this is a short video about Christian medieval maps, particularly the Psalter Map and the empiricist judgment of it. Sorry for the microphone quality. I'm not an influencer or anything like that, so I don't have a particularly advanced setup. If you don't know, this is what the Psalter Map looks like. It was created around the late 13th century in England, and the language we're seeing is Latin and Anglo-Norman. This map was introduced to me relatively recently in a history unit I am doing at university. What became clear to me, though, was that my professor did not seem to understand the meaning of this map. As we can see, the map seems to depict the known world at the time. Christ in majesty is at the top of the map, and we see that Jerusalem is in the middle. If we look at the right side, we find a row of goofy-looking humanoids at the fringes. These humanoid figures are what my history professor really wanted to key in on. I asked my professor, did medieval European scholars believe that non-Europeans had dog heads and faces on their torsos? And my professor answered with, yes, from the evidence, this seems to be what they believed. So what's being taught is that the depiction of such figures is proof that European scholars were backwards and racists and, sort of ignorant of the world they live in. To a person who thinks with an empirical mindset, this would be the natural conclusion. If you base your observation of reality solely through sense data, the Psalter map simply becomes a description of the material world. And so these interpretations that my professor adheres to would be the natural conclusion of such an analysis. Now, I want to make one particular point clear. This map is not a description of the world, but rather a description of reality. I won't be going into a great depth of the map, but I will explain enough to try to convince you that there is more than meets the eye here. As we see, Jerusalem is in the middle of the map. Jerusalem being a very important part of Christendom, it is where Christ walked, preached, died, and was resurrected. For this reason, it is at the center. It is symbolic for Christ in the world. Now, as we move away from the center and as we move away from God, we reach the fringes, and that is where we find the monsters and the beasts. This is the nature of reality. As we move further away from God, we abandon virtues, we abandon what is sacred, and we ignore what is good, we will reach the fringes of our reality, where we find these idiosyncrasies and we find chaos depicted on the map as these beasts and humanoid-looking figures. Now, the map isn't saying that those that live in Central Asia or whatnot are void of God. To say that sort of falls back into the empiricist trap. Because when we look at the map, we find that Christ is still at the top of the world. So God transcends the earth. He's depicted in majesty at the top of the world, and so it is impossible to be without him. But at the same time, he exists within our experiences, as depicted by Jerusalem in the center. And so we are still capable of making decisions that lead us away from the center and into darkness and chaos. That is what the map is trying to describe. It is the reality and nature of the life we lead. Many modern academics don't understand ancient cosmology or metaphysical thinking, and they make the assumption that our medieval counterparts thought the same way they do. The creators of the Psalter map were not simply describing the material world, because they did not see truth as solely restricted to the material. We are doing art and literature of the medieval and ancient world an injustice by ignoring this form of metaphysical analysis. God be with you, and thank you.